responded in silence. 20 minutes later, the stars burned. The crimson suns of Kepler 442 cast their dying light across the crystalline spires of New Thessaly, painting the evacuation ships in shades of blood and shadow. For 3 centuries, the Arcadian Commonwealth had been the jewel of the Outer Rim, a paradise world where philosophy and art flourished under twin stars. Today, it burned. Captain Ruby Okafor pressed her palm against the viewport of the orbital command station, watching helplessly as Dominion warships rained plasma fire on the cultural centers below. The massive dreadnoughts hung in the atmosphere like malevolent titans, their black holes adorned with the skull and nebula insignia that had become synonymous with terror across 17 star systems. "Status report," she commanded, though her voice carried the weight of defeat. Lieutenant Commander Ayame Volkov, his usually composed demeanor cracking under pressure, consulted his tactical display. The Dominion fleet consists of 47 vessels, including 12 dreadnoughts. They've established a complete orbital blockade. No ship gets in or out without their permission. Ruby closed her eyes. The Dominion had been expanding aggressively for the past decade, conquering peaceful worlds with ruthless efficiency. Their method was always the same: demand complete surrender, then systematically dismantle the conquered civilization's culture, technology, and eventually, population. They kept some as slaves, experimented on others, and eliminated the rest. "What about our defensive fleet?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The Arcadian Defense Force was neutralized in the first hour," Volkov replied grimly. 12 ships against 47. They fought bravely, but an explosion lit up the planet's surface. One of the great libraries, a repository of knowledge from dozens of civilizations, collapsed in a shower of crystal and flame. With it died 10,000 years of accumulated wisdom. "Sir," called Communications Officer Raven Blackwood from her station, "the Dominion commander is requesting your surrender. They want to speak with you directly." Ruby straightened her uniform. 300 years of peace had made the Arcadians soft. They were poets, artists, and philosophers, not warriors. Their ships carried art galleries and concert halls, not weapons. When the Dominion had first appeared at their borders, the Commonwealth had tried to negotiate, offering cultural exchanges and technological cooperation. The Dominion had responded by vaporizing the peace delegation. "Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the scarred visage of Warlord Draktath, Supreme Commander of the Dominion's 4th Conquest Fleet. His cybernetic eye glowed red as he regarded Ruby with predatory satisfaction. "Captain Okafor," he said, his voice a mechanical growl enhanced by vocal implants, "I trust you've had time to consider your position. Your pathetic defense fleet is debris. Your orbital platforms are scrap metal. Your precious world burns at my discretion." Ruby kept her expression neutral. "What do you want, Warlord?" Drakat's organic eye gleamed with malice. "Unconditional surrender. Open your remaining evacuation ships for inspection. We will select which of your people are useful and which are expendable. Comply, and your death will be swift. Resist, and we will make examples of your civilians that will echo across the galaxy. And if we surrender, then you become property of the Dominion. Your artists will create propaganda for our glory. Your scientists will serve our war machine. Your children will be raised as soldiers for our cause. Your culture will be repurposed." The communication ended. Ruby stared at the blank screen, feeling the weight of 3 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. Around the command center, her officers waited for orders that could save or damn their entire civilization. "Sir," Volkov said quietly, "we could try to break through the blockade. Maybe get some of the evacuation ships to safety." "With what ships?" Ruby asked bitterly. "We have 17 civilian transports and 4 medical frigates against 47 Dominion warships." "There has to be something," Blackwood insisted. "Some alliance, some fleet, someone who would help us." Ruby walked to the stellar cartography display. The holographic map showed their position at the edge of the galactic spiral, far from the major powers. The hegemony was 300 light-years away, too far and too busy fighting their own wars. The Trade Federation might help, but only if there was profit in it, and there was no profit in fighting the Dominion. "Computer," she commanded, Scan for all space-capable civilizations within 50 light-years. Full spectrum search. The display updated, showing several dozen star systems. Most were marked green for peaceful civilizations, yellow for developing worlds, and red for dangerous or quarantine systems. Her heart sank as she realized most of the green markers represented worlds the Dominion had already conquered. "Wait," she said, focusing on a small red dot at the edge of the search radius. "What's that system?" The computer's synthetic voice responded with its usual clinical precision. "Sol system. Planet designation, Earth. Classification, quarantine world. Species designation, human. Status, restricted contact. Threat level, extreme." Volkov frowned. "I've heard of them. Death Worlders. The Galactic Council has had them under observation for decades, but maintains strict non-interference protocols." "Why?" Blackwood asked. "Because they're completely insane," Volkov replied. "According to the reports, they evolved on a planet so hostile that their idea of recreation includes throwing themselves off cliffs with primitive parachutes and fighting other predators for entertainment." Ruby pulled up the restricted files on humanity. What she read made her blood run cold. The humans had developed nuclear weapons before achieving space travel. They had fought wars that killed millions of their own species over concepts like territory and ideology. Their planet was a Class 10 death world with weather systems capable of destroying cities and predators that most galactic species would classify as mythological nightmares. "This can't be accurate," she murmured, reading further. "It says they consider pain to be a teaching tool and that their military training involves simulated death scenarios." "There's more," Volkov said, accessing additional files. "Their entertainment media is classified as psychological warfare by most civilized species. They create fictional scenarios of violence and survival for pleasure." An alert klaxon sounded. On the main display, 3 more Dominion ships had arrived, bringing the total to 50. Time was running out. "Sir," Blackwood said urgently, "the Dominion is beginning orbital bombardment of the southern continent. They're targeting the refugee camps." Ruby watched in horror as plasma bolts rained down on helpless civilians. Children who had never known war were dying while she stood helpless in orbit. The Dominion wasn't just conquering, they were enjoying it. "Computer, do the humans have faster-than-light communication capability?" "Affirmative. The Sol system maintains a quantum entanglement communication network with several deep space monitoring stations." Ruby looked at her officers. "According to these files, the humans have been observing galactic civilizations for over 60 years. They know about us, about the Dominion, about everything." "But they've never made contact," Volkov pointed out. "The Council's files suggest they're too dangerous for civilized interaction." "Or too civilized for galactic politics," Ruby countered. "Think about it. They've had the technology to reach other worlds for decades, but they've stayed isolated. That doesn't sound like a conquering species." Another explosion lit up the planet's surface. A children's hospital had just been destroyed. "Open a communication channel to the Sol system," Ruby ordered. "Maximum range. All frequencies." "Sir, that violates at least 12 interstellar treaties," Volkov warned. "The treaties assume we have a civilization left to protect," Ruby replied. "Do it." Blackwood's fingers danced across her console. "Channel open. This is going to take about 20 minutes to reach Earth." Ruby took a deep breath. She was about to make first contact with a species that the galaxy considered too dangerous to approach. But what choice did she have? The Dominion was systematically destroying everything her people had built over 3 centuries. This is Captain Ruby Okafor of the Arcadian Commonwealth, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. Our worlds are under attack by the Dominion 4th Conquest Fleet. Our defenses have failed. We are a peaceful civilization with no military capability beyond basic system defense. She paused, watching another of her world cities burn. We are requesting immediate assistance from any spacefaring civilization capable of military intervention. We know this transmission violates several non-interference protocols, but we have no choice. 3 billion civilians are facing systematic extermination. Our coordinates are attached, along with full tactical data on the enemy forces. Her voice cracked slightly as she continued. We have heard that Earth has been observing our galaxy for decades. We know your species has been classified as dangerous by the Galactic Council. We don't care. If you're listening, if you have any military capability, please help us. We're willing to share everything we have, our technology, our knowledge, our culture, with anyone who can stop this slaughter. She looked directly into the camera. This is our final transmission. In approximately 40 minutes, the Dominion will begin the systematic execution of our civilian population. If anyone receives this message, please remember that we tried to live in peace. Remember New Thessaly. Remember what happens when good people do nothing while evil spreads across the stars. Ruby ended the transmission and slumped into her command chair. Around her, the bridge was silent except for the hum of failing life support systems and the distant rumble of plasma bombardment. "What happens now?" Blackwood asked quietly. "Now we wait," Ruby replied, "and hope that somewhere in the darkness between stars, someone heard us." The message reached Luna Station at 0247 hours, Earth Standard Time. Communications specialist Jordan Rivers was finishing his night shift when the Deep Space Array detected an alien transmission. In 40 years of monitoring the galaxy, humanity had received thousands of signals from various civilizations. This was the first time someone had specifically asked for their help. Jordan's hands trembled as he listened to the desperate plea from Captain Okafor. The woman's voice carried the weight of an entire civilization facing extinction. He immediately activated the emergency protocols. "Control, this is Luna Station. We have a priority alpha situation. First direct contact with extraterrestrial intelligence requesting military assistance." The response came back within seconds. "Luna Station, this is Admiral Raven Montgomery, Earth Defense Command. Transmit all data immediately. Wake everyone. I want full analysis in 10 minutes. Within minutes, the most secure facility on Earth was buzzing with activity. The Pentagon's Situation Room filled with officials from every branch of the military, representatives from the UN Security Council, and scientists from the Xenobiology Institute. Admiral Montgomery stood before the massive display showing the tactical situation in the Kepler 442 system. At 65, she was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars and the asteroid belt conflicts. Nothing surprised her anymore, except this. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "an alien civilization has just asked Earth for military assistance. They're facing extinction from something called the Dominion 4th Conquest Fleet." The room erupted in whispers. Dr. Amira Hassan, head of the Xenobiology Institute, raised her hand. "Admiral, according to our long-range observations, the Arcadian Commonwealth is one of the galaxy's most peaceful civilizations. They're essentially artists and philosophers. And they're about to be wiped out by something called the Dominion," Montgomery replied. "General Torres, what's our tactical assessment?" General Xavier Torres, head of the Joint Chiefs, consulted his tablet. "Based on the transmitted data, the Dominion operates with overwhelming numerical superiority and brute force tactics. 50 ships, mostly Dreadnought-class vessels. Their strategy appears to be orbital bombardment followed by ground occupation. Our capabilities? We have the 7th Fleet on Deep Space Patrol, currently in the Proxima Centauri system. 12 ships, including the carriers Lexington and Yorktown. The newest stealth frigates, equipped with our latest weapon systems." Dr. Hassan looked concerned. "Admiral, if we intervene, we're revealing ourselves to the entire galaxy. The political implications of letting 3 billion people die while we watch are worse," Montgomery cut her off. "General Torres, how long to reach the Kepler system?" 18 hours with our fastest ships. But Admiral, 12 ships against 50 have never been worse odds for the enemy, Montgomery finished. They've been fighting artists and diplomats. They've never faced a military that considers warfare to be a science. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of the decision. Humanity was about to reveal itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. "Dr. Hassan," Montgomery continued, "pull up everything we know about this Dominion." The display changed to show intercepted communications and observational data. The Dominion was a militaristic empire that had conquered 17 civilizations in the past decade. Their method was always the same: overwhelming force, followed by systematic cultural destruction and population reduction. "They're not just conquerors," Dr. Hassan explained. "They're genocidal. They keep some populations as slaves, use others for experimentation, and eliminate the rest. It's efficient extinction." General Torres studied the tactical data. Their ships are large and heavily armed, but they rely on brute force. No finesse, no coordination. They fight like a mob. Perfect, Montgomery said with a cold smile. Communications. Open a channel to Admiral Blackwood aboard the Lexington. The screen showed a woman in her 40s with short silver hair and steely gray eyes. Admiral Lydia Blackwood commanded 7th Fleet with a reputation for tactical brilliance and absolute ruthlessness when necessary. Admiral Montgomery, Blackwood said, I assume this is about the alien transmission. It is. Admiral, I'm authorizing Operation Thunderstrike. Full deployment of 7th Fleet to the Kepler 442 system. Rules of engagement. Any Dominion vessel that does not immediately surrender is to be destroyed. Blackwood's expression didn't change. Understood. Any restrictions on tactics? None. Show them what happens when they threaten civilians. With pleasure. We'll be underway in 30 minutes. The transmission ended. Around the Situation Room, the magnitude of what they were about to do settled over everyone present. Admiral, Dr. Hassan said quietly, once we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will know about us. Montgomery looked at the tactical display showing the Dominion fleet bombarding helpless cities. Good. It's time they learn what happens when someone asks Earth for help. The human fleet drops out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Like predators emerging from the void. 12 ships materialized in perfect formation. 2 carriers, 4 heavy cruisers, and 6 stealth frigates. Their black holes were nearly invisible against the star field, marked only by the simple blue and white flag of Earth. Admiral Blackwood stood on the bridge of the carrier Lexington, studying the tactical display. The Dominion fleet was spread across the system in a loose formation, confident in their numerical superiority. They had no idea they were being watched. Admiral, reported Commander Dylan Cross from the tactical station, we're detecting 51 enemy vessels. Configuration matches the transmitted data. They're maintaining a blockade around the 4th planet while conducting orbital bombardments. Any sign of the Arcadian forces? Negative. Intelligence suggests they were eliminated in the first engagement. Blackwood nodded grimly. The Arcadians had been artists trying to fight soldiers. The outcome was predictable, but the Dominion had made one critical error. They had assumed that all civilizations were equally unprepared for war. Launch reconnaissance drones. I want detailed scans of every enemy ship. Formation analysis, weapon signatures, command structure. We study them before we kill them. The drones spread out across the system, their stealth technology making them virtually undetectable. Within minutes, the human fleet had a complete picture of the Dominion's capabilities. Analysis complete, Cross reported. Enemy vessels are heavily armed, but poorly coordinated. They're operating in loose groups with no apparent tactical doctrine. Individual ships are large and powerful, but slow and cumbersome. Perfect. Blackwood opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Blackwood. We're about to engage a numerically superior force that has been terrorizing civilian populations. They've never faced a real military. Let's show them the difference between conquest and warfare. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the burning cities below. Rules of engagement. Any ship that does not immediately surrender will be destroyed. No quarter for those who target civilians. Execute pattern Delta 7. Begin the hunt. The human fleet scattered like a pack of wolves, each ship taking an assigned vector. The carriers launched their fighter squadrons while the cruisers moved to flanking positions. The stealth frigates simply vanished, their advanced cloaking technology making them invisible to Dominion sensors. Captain Ruby Okafor was preparing for the end when her communications officer shouted from across the command center. Captain, I'm detecting new contacts at the edge of the system. 12 ships, unknown configuration. Ruby looked at the tactical display. The new contacts were moving with precision and purpose that the Dominion fleet lacked. IFF signals. Negative on Galactic standard frequencies. Wait, I'm getting something on the emergency channel. A new voice filled the command center, speaking in accented but perfect Galactic standard. Arcadian Command, this is Admiral Lydia Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force. We received a distress call. We're here to help. The bridge fell silent. After a moment, Ruby found her voice. Admiral Blackwood, this is Captain Okafor. Are you human? We are. And we're about to show the Dominion why civilized species don't threaten innocent people. I recommend you take your remaining ships to a safe distance. This is going to get messy. The first engagement lasted exactly 93 seconds. 3 Dominion patrol ships detected the approaching human frigates and moved to intercept. They were expecting to encounter fleeing civilian vessels or perhaps a few surviving defense ships. Instead, they found themselves facing military vessels that had been designed specifically for war. The human ships struck without warning. Precise missile barrages crippled the Dominion vessels' engines and weapon systems before they could respond. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that fought with surgical precision rather than brute force. Unknown vessels, came a transmission from the lead Dominion ship. Identify yourselves immediately or face destruction. The human response came in the form of a railgun shot that split the alien ship in half. Aboard the Dominion flagship, Warlord Drakath stared at his tactical display in disbelief. What just happened? Sir, 3 patrol ships have been destroyed by unknown vessels. The attackers are using advanced stealth technology and coordinated tactics. Drakath's cybernetic eye blazed with fury. Impossible. Intelligence indicated no military assets in this system. Send a squadron to investigate. Sir, the surviving patrol ship reports that the attackers identified themselves as Earth Defense Force. Earth? Drakath accessed his database. The quarantine death world? That's impossible. Those primitives don't have space travel. Sir, perhaps the database is outdated. An alarm klaxon cut off the conversation. On the main screen, 6 human fighters had appeared as if from nowhere, their weapons lighting up the darkness. The Dominion squadron that had been sent to investigate was already burning wreckage. All ships, Drakath roared, converge on the unknown contacts. I want those ships identified and destroyed. What followed was a masterclass in human military doctrine. Instead of meeting the Dominion fleet in direct combat, the human ships scattered across the system. The carriers launched their fighters in coordinated waves, while the cruisers used their superior speed and maneuverability to strike at the enemy's flanks. Captain Ruby Okafor watched the battle unfold from her command center, unable to believe what she was seeing. The humans fought like nothing she had ever witnessed. They didn't just attack their enemies, they hunted them. Captain, Volkov said in amazement, they're not fighting a battle, they're conducting an extermination. Each human ship seemed to know exactly where the others were, coordinating their attacks with deadly precision. The Dominion fleet, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies through sheer numbers, found themselves facing an enemy that turned their size against them. Look at this, Blackwood pointed to the tactical display. The humans are using the Dominion's own formation against them. They're forcing the alien ships to fire through their own formations. Indeed, the human fighters were weaving between the massive Dominion dreadnoughts, using their superior speed to avoid the aliens' heavy weapons, while forcing them to choose between hitting the fighters or their own ships. Meanwhile, the human cruisers were implementing what would later be called the Monterey Doctrine, a tactic that involved precisely targeting enemy engines and weapon systems rather than going for kill shots. The result was that instead of simply destroying the Dominion ships, they were systematically crippling them. Warlord, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, we've lost 17 ships. The enemy is using tactics we've never encountered. They're targeting our propulsion systems and leaving us dead in space. Drakath stared at the tactical display. His mighty fleet was being torn apart by 12 ships. It was impossible. The Dominion had conquered 17 civilizations. They had never been defeated. Sir, the enemy commander is requesting communication. Put them through. Admiral Blackwood's face appeared on screen. To Drakath, she looked like any other soft species. No obvious weapons, no armor, no cybernetic enhancements. But her eyes held something that made the Warlord's blood run cold. Warlord Drakath, she said calmly, I am Admiral Lydia Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to order your ships to stand down and prepare for surrender. Drakath's organic eye widened. You dare threaten the Dominion? We are the conquerors of 17 worlds. Were, Blackwood corrected. You were the conquerors of 17 worlds. Now, your target practice. 20 seconds. I have 50 ships. You have 12? I have 12 ships crewed by humans who consider warfare to be an art form. You have 50 targets crewed by bullies who have never faced real soldiers. 10 seconds. Drakath cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. All ships, focus fire on their flagship. I want that carrier destroyed. The Dominion fleet concentrated their fire on the Lexington, unleashing enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The result was spectacular and completely ineffective. Admiral, Commander Cross reported calmly, enemy fire is being absorbed by our defensive screens. No damage to report. Blackwood smiled coldly. Their turn. All ships, execute Pattern Omega. End this. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The human fleet stopped playing with their prey and revealed their true capabilities. The fighters, which had been harassing the Dominion fleet, suddenly began targeting specific points on each enemy ship. Not random attacks, but precision strikes on critical systems. The cruisers, which had been conducting hit-and-run attacks, moved into formation and began systematically destroying the crippled Dominion vessels. How are they doing this? Drakath demanded as his ships began exploding around him. Their weapons, their coordination, it's impossible. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, according to our database, Earth is classified as a death world. The species that evolved there considers this level of violence to be normal. For the first time in his career, Warlord Drakath felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. His fleet was being destroyed by creatures that the galaxy had considered too dangerous to contact. And now he understood why. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered. General surrender. All vessels stand down immediately. The transmission went out across the Dominion fleet. Within minutes, the surviving ships had powered down their weapons and engines. The battle was over. Admiral Blackwood's voice filled the communication channels. Dominion vessels, this is Admiral Blackwood. You will prepare for boarding parties. Any ship that resists will be destroyed. Any personnel who harm prisoners or civilians will be treated as war criminals. You have brought this upon yourselves. Captain Okafor stared at her tactical display in disbelief. The mighty Dominion 4th Conquest Fleet, 51 ships that had never been defeated, had been completely destroyed or captured in less than 2 hours by 12 human vessels. Captain, Blackwood's voice came over the communication system. This is Admiral Blackwood. Are your people safe? Admiral, yes, we're safe. How is this possible? Captain, we've been monitoring galactic communications for decades. We know about the Dominion, about their methods, about their conquests. We've been waiting for someone to ask for help. But the Galactic Council classified your species as too dangerous for contact. Blackwood's laugh was cold. Captain, we're not dangerous to civilized people. We're dangerous to those who threaten civilized people. There's a difference. 3 days later, Captain Okafor stood in the restored command center of New Thessaly's orbital station, watching human ships coordinate the relief effort. The efficiency was staggering. Within hours of the battle's end, human medical teams had been deployed to the planet's surface, treating wounded civilians with technology that seemed miraculous even by galactic standards. Captain, Admiral Blackwood said, entering the command center, I wanted to personally thank you for your message. It took courage to contact a quarantine species. Okafor studied the human admiral. She looked ordinary. No cybernetic enhancements, no obvious weapons, no signs of the savage nature that the galaxy attributed to her species. Yet, she had just led 12 ships to victory against impossible odds. Admiral, I have to ask, how did you do it? Your fleet was outnumbered more than 4-1. Blackwood walked to the viewing port, looking down at the planet where human relief workers were helping rebuild the damaged cities. Captain, most galactic species have never had to develop serious military capabilities. You've lived in a relatively peaceful galaxy where conflicts are resolved through negotiation or limited engagements. And humans? We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've developed military science to an art form, not because we're violent, but because we had to, in order to survive. Okafor nodded slowly. The Galactic Council is going to want to know about this engagement. I'm sure they will. Blackwood smiled. In fact, I believe they're already on their way. As if summoned by our words, the long-range sensors detected 3 ships approaching the system. The IFF signals identified them as Galactic Council vessels. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Volkov reported, "we're being hailed by the lead ship. It's Counselor Zeth of the Altarian Republic." "Put him through." The main screen showed a tall, blue-skinned alien with large eyes and an expression of barely controlled panic. "This is Counselor Zeth of the Galactic Council. We are responding to reports of unusual activity in this system." "Counselor," Admiral Blackwood stepped forward. "I am Admiral Lydia Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force. We responded to a distress call from the Arcadian Commonwealth." "Admiral, your species is under strict quarantine protocols. You had no authority to intervene in galactic affairs." "The authority came from 3 billion people who were about to be murdered," Blackwood replied calmly. "We don't recognize the authority of any council that would allow genocide to proceed unchallenged." Counselor Zeth's face went pale. "Admiral, you don't understand the implications of your actions. By revealing your military capabilities, you've destabilized the entire galactic balance of power." "Good," Blackwood said. "The previous balance allowed species like the Dominion to conquer peaceful civilizations with impunity. Maybe it's time for a new balance. But your species, the reports about human warfare capabilities, the galaxy will panic." "The galaxy should panic," Blackwood replied. "But not about us. They should panic about what happens when they allow evil to spread unchecked. We're not interested in conquest, Counselor. We're interested in justice." Captain Okafor stepped forward. "Counselor Zeth, the humans saved my entire civilization. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to help. If that's what the galaxy considers dangerous, then perhaps the galaxy needs to reconsider its definitions." The counselor looked between the two women, clearly struggling with concepts that didn't fit his worldview. "Admiral Blackwood, the Council will need to establish new protocols for human interaction with galactic civilization." "We'll be happy to negotiate," Blackwood replied. "But we won't return to isolation. We're part of this galaxy now, whether the Council likes it or not. And if the Council decides that humanity poses too great a threat," Blackwood's smile was cold, "then the Council will discover why the Dominion surrendered so quickly." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. "Admiral," Okafor said quietly, "what happens now?" Blackwood looked out at the stars where human ships were already moving to patrol the system's borders. "Now, Captain, the galaxy learns that there's a new sheriff in town, and we don't tolerate bullies." 6 months later, the galaxy had indeed learned about humanity's emergence into galactic affairs. The Battle of Kepler 442, as it came to be known, had sent shockwaves through every civilization in known space. The Dominion 4th Conquest Fleet had been completely destroyed or captured. The surviving ships were turned over to the species they had previously conquered, while the Dominion's military leadership faced war crimes tribunals. The mighty empire that had terrorized 17 worlds had crumbled within weeks of their defeat. More importantly, the galaxy had learned that there was a new power among the stars, one that didn't conquer for glory or resources, but intervened to protect the innocent. Captain Okafor, now promoted to Admiral and commanding the rebuilt Arcadian Defense Force, stood in her office overlooking the reconstructed capital city of New Thessaly. The crystal spires rose even higher than before, their surfaces now embedded with small plaques bearing the Earth Defense Force insignia, a reminder of the day salvation came from the stars. "Admiral," her aide announced, "you have a visitor." Admiral Blackwood entered, wearing the dress uniform of the newly formed Galactic Protection Alliance, a coalition of species dedicated to preventing future genocides. "Lydia," Okafor said, embracing her friend, "I heard about the latest mission. The hegemony is withdrawing from the Rigel system. They decided that enslaving the local population wasn't worth facing human intervention." Blackwood replied with satisfaction. "Amazing how negotiable some species become when they know there are consequences for their actions." "The Council still isn't happy about humanity's role in galactic affairs." "The Council represents the old way of doing things," Blackwood said. "Stand by while innocents suffer, then offer condolences afterward. We represent a new way. Intervene before the suffering begins." Okafor nodded. "The irony isn't lost on me. The galaxy feared humanity because they thought you were too violent. Now they're discovering that you're violent in service of peace." We learned something important from your message, Ruby, Blackwood said seriously. We learned that isolation isn't protection, it's abandonment. When good people do nothing, evil spreads. We won't make that mistake again. Through the office window, they could see human and Arcadian children playing together in the rebuilt parks. The next generation would grow up in a galaxy where calling for help meant something. What's next for the Alliance? Okafor asked. We just received a distress call from the Centauri cluster, Blackwood replied, her eyes hardening. Something called the Hive Collective is assimilating peaceful species. They seem to think resistance is futile. They haven't met humans yet. No, Blackwood agreed. They haven't, but they will. As the two admirals planned their next mission, neither noticed the small memorial plaque mounted on the office wall. It bore a simple inscription in both Arcadian and English. In memory of the 20 minutes of silence before Earth responded. Sometimes the best answer to a plea for help is not words, but action. Below it in smaller text was the unofficial motto of the Galactic Protection Alliance. We don't negotiate with bullies, we stop them. The galaxy had asked why Earth had remained silent for 20 minutes after receiving the distress call. The answer was simple. It had taken exactly 20 minutes to prepare the fleet for departure. In the cosmic scale of things, 20 minutes was practically instantaneous. But for humanity, 20 minutes was 20 minutes too long to let innocent people suffer. The stars might burn, but they would burn in service of justice. And across the galaxy, anyone who threatened the innocent knew that somewhere among the stars, Earth was watching. And Earth never forgot a cry for help.